These are very simple exercises you can do anywhere. The more time you spend doing these things, the more you're able to identify when you have gone into fight, flight, or freeze. I want to welcome you to part 2, where we are talking today with Dr. Sina McCullough, and she is going to give us some amazing solutions on how to help shut down some of those traumas that we talked about in part 1. If you did not get a chance to watch that, I highly encourage you to go and listen to it. It is a little bit long, but I am telling you, every bit of information in that video is so incredibly important. I'm just going to let it go because we really need to hear this information. Sina, I want to thank you so much for being on here, and let's just go ahead and start with some of the solutions on how to shut down some of these issues. Wonderful. Thank you for having me. Remember, the goal is you want to be the silent witness, and you're going to use this strategy hopefully on a daily basis, even if it's just 30 seconds, to check in with your body, right? You're trying to differentiate between parasympathetic nervous system and when you're triggered into the sympathetic state. And ideally, I think of it like Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. Have you seen him, how he works with red zone cases, right? And what's he trying to do? He's trying to get them, distract them, right, before they get into the red zone. So that's what you're trying to do too. You're trying to become so familiar with your body and what triggers it that you can stop it from getting into the red zone case, which is equated in the human to the nervous system being overwhelmed, right? So that awareness exercise will help you practice that. Try to do it every day. Like I said, even if it's just for 5 seconds, okay? The second somatic exercise that can help reverse engineer your nervous system is grounding. Okay, so grounding is when you're going to bring yourself back into your body. And now this is the opposite of meditation, right? Oftentimes people will prescribe meditation when somebody has an imbalance or a disease or sleep issue. But if your body is stuck in this state of fear, that can actually sometimes be inappropriate advice, because in order to meditate, that's an expansive state, and the body doesn't want to become expansive if it's still stuck in fear. So if you are one of those people that have had a hard time meditating, it could be that you need to first ground yourself and get out of the fear response, right? Get into the parasympathetic state and then try to meditate. So the way we can do that, very simple. You can, for instance, take a pencil. Like if you're at the office, you can take a pencil and you can maybe feel the pencil and feel all the grooves of the pencil, determine if it's smooth, if it has ridges on it. So you're basically just trying to use your sense of touch in order to come out of your mind and back into the body. You could do other things, like if you have carpet, right? You can take off your shoes and socks and scrunch your toes into the carpet. Again, you're trying to have a felt sense here, right? Using your tactile ability. Scrunching your feet in the sand, or, sometimes people at their office would have like a little container of sand that they'll play with. You can scrunch your fingers in the sand and roll it through your fingers and pay attention. How does it feel? How does it smell? Is it coarse? You can, if you're able to, you can walk on the grass barefoot, right? This is grounding in more ways than one, because you're also picking up electrons from the earth, right? So you just have bare feet, as long as they haven't sprayed the grass with a pesticide or herbicide. And you're basically just barely going to pick your foot up enough and drag the bottom of your foot along the grass, and then pick the other one up just enough to drag it along the grass. Okay. And you're paying attention. Is it cold, right? Can you feel the cold from the earth coming up? Is the grass soft, right? Does it make the crunching sound when you step on it? So you're engaging your senses again to try to come back into the body. You can pet an animal. If you don't have an animal, you can brush up against your leg. So kind of pet your leg or pet your arm.
How does it feel? Can you feel the individual hairs on your arm? Does the skin feel dry? Can you feel pores? Like, so you're basically engaging as many senses as you possibly can to bring yourself out of the mind and back into the body. Okay. So this would be grounding, would be an example of a somatic exercise that you would use if you're aware now, and because you've practiced the awareness exercise, and your body, you can feel it being triggered into the somatic state, right? So in other words, you can feel the stress starting to build, the overwhelm is starting to build. So bam, you immediately now know how to ground yourself. You start grounding. Okay. Now, beyond grounding, another exercise you can do is called orienting. Okay. Our nervous system, as you know, is designed to keep us safe. One way it does that is by using the information from our environment to determine if it is safe or not. So with orienting, we're going to use those same cues from the environment. So once again, we're going to engage our senses, as many senses as possible, to determine if our current nervous system thinks our environment is safe. So to do this, first, you're going to start in your home, right? A familiar place. And you're going to start in one room. You go from one room to the next. And I will tell you, sometimes it can be so overwhelming for the nervous system that you can only do one room a day. Okay. So take it at a slow pace. This isn't something you want to rush through because you want to really be aware, right? That's why you start with the awareness exercise. You want to be aware of how your body is responding to your current environment. And the reason you're doing that is because the nervous system utilizes a stress response mechanism. So if you can identify things in the environment that are actually causing it to feel unsafe, right, to be afraid, you can change the environment and it will automatically start calming down your nervous system. Now, I'll tell you, it can be things that you wouldn't even think that might trigger your nervous system. So for instance, in my office, I went through and I looked at everything. So to do this exercise, you're going to walk through the entire room. You're going to look under the desk. You're going to look under your papers, right? It's like your child is afraid of the dark, and you're going through the child's bedroom and you're looking under the bed, you're looking in the closet, behind the chair, you're looking at every square inch of that room to let the child know that it's safe, there's nothing there, and the child will go into ease, right? We didn't talk about the inner child, but that's actually what you're doing here. You're calming your inner child by actually looking for all of the monsters in the room. And the monsters present themselves in different ways. So for instance, when I went through my office and looked at every little thing, there was one picture frame that actually caused me to be overwhelmed in my nervous system. I could feel the anxiety start to rise, like up through my belly, when I looked at that picture frame. And it was crazy because I had I didn't think I had an emotional connection to it. I bought it at a store, but my body did not like the colors on it. So I got rid of the picture frame. And then in my office, my body, you could feel it kind of relax. And sometimes you'll know when you go into the parasympathetic state because the body will respond. It might do something like yawn, right? That's a typical response of going into parasympathetic after you've been in sympathetic for a while is you yawn. It might actually the muscles might just relax. You might feel some tension just starting to release. I know a girl that actually burps every time she goes into the parasympathetic state, right? You might feel your tummy start gurgling, right? Which is not really a common thing that people hear when they're in fight or flight so often. So gurgling in the tummy might be an indicator. But either way, what you want to do is go through, you're going to look at everything with your eyes to see if the body responds negatively to it. You're also going to sit in a comfortable seated position, right? Ground yourself, and you're going to listen. So I like to close my eyes and I listen for any sounds that might make me feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's the sound of a fan, or music or some kind of white noise, right? You're going to smell. Is there anything, any kind of smell that indicates danger? So sometimes it could be a perfume. It could be a cleaning supply. It could actually even be an essential oil that you might be diffusing, which we think of as healthy. And I'm all for essential oils, but knowing when to use which one is something that your body knows. So you want to pay attention. Is that smell bothering it? And so forth. So you do this type of orienting exercise in every room of your house, every single room. And when you feel, if you do feel unsafe, you go back to the grounding exercise. Okay. So the next thing that you would do, oh, and by the way, you can do that in your office too. So you start in your home, right? One room at a time, you get proficient at it. And then say you go to the office, you can do that in your office space or a hotel room for, to a certain extent, wherever you are, there's always something you can do to make the environment feel safer for you. Okay. Now, the last one I want to share goes hand in hand with that one. This last exercise is called marking. So in the wild, animals will tend to determine their boundaries by marking, right? Like with their urine. But don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to urinate in your house. So, but in the wild, those boundaries are what gives the animal, or one of the big things that gives the animal a sense of safety, right? A felt sense of safety. Any animal that crosses that boundary is perceived as a threat, and that animal will respond in kind, right? Anything that stays out of that boundary is not perceived as a threat. And then the animal feels safe. And so they can relax, right? You'll see lions do this. They'll walk around and pace, get their territory, they'll mark. And then once they feel relaxed, they'll go and they can actually lay down and eat and sleep. Okay. Most of us humans do not have clear, healthy boundaries, right? We tend to be I can do it. We're people pleasers. This comes from a dysregulated nervous system, actually. So a lot of us tend to be people pleasers. We want to be like the super mom or the super dad, or, the one that people come to when they need help, and we can do it all. And, but so what ends up happening is that we don't actually develop, or nobody teaches us really how to create a healthy boundary. Oftentimes it's learned from our parents, right? So what we want to start doing is marking our own territory. In other words, creating our boundaries. This lets the nervous system know that we are safe and that nothing that is dangerous is within our own marked boundary. Okay. So to do this at home, it's really simple. You're going to walk around the room, right? You've already now done the orienting. So the room's safe from that perspective. Now you're going to walk around the room and you're going to touch or mark with your hand everything in that room. And so it's not like a possessive sense, like you're peeing all over everything, right? But it's in more like a present sense, like I am here, my power and my strength are present, I am safe, right? This is my space. There's nothing negative or hurtful. Nothing in this space is going to harm me. This is my space, right? So it's just setting a clear intention, that clear boundary. So you're going to go in every room and you're going to mark, with your hand, the walls, all over my desk, my computer. I might mark my chair, the floor, anything that's in that room that you feel like marking, you just go and you touch it. Okay. When you do this, notice how your body responds. This is the awareness again. Notice how your body responds to what you're touching. Sometimes when I've touched things in my home, I felt like joy, and other things that I touched gave me anxiety. Like I used to have this sign language poster up. I was teaching my kids sign language, and I had the poster up in our schoolroom, and it was supposed to be fun teaching them sign language. But when I touched the poster, I got anxious. It was another to-do thing. It was this constant reminder on my wall. Oh, I got to do that. Oh, I said I was going to teach them sign language. I haven't done that today. I got to go do that. But that was my subconscious thinking, right? I wasn't like consciously aware that every time I looked at that, that's what my body was feeling, right? And that's a fear. oh, I should be doing this. That's a fear driven response. So I took that poster down, right? And the anxiety, it dropped every time I went in that room just from a poster that's supposed to be helpful, right? So you never know. Just touch it how and just be open, the silent witness to how the body responds. And also, one thing people tend to forget to mark is yourself. So I will take my hands and I will actually mark all over my body, just rub all over my body, marking myself. And especially if you're somebody who's a people pleaser, or you might have low self-esteem, like I've struggled with in the past, marking yourself can make a huge difference. It's like putting the shield all around you and you become more centered, like you own yourself, as opposed to I'm out here giving pieces of myself away because I'm trying to be who you think I should be in order to feel loved and accepted, right? So you can come into your own that way. I do this too. Like if you're going out into the office, mark yourself, mark your office territory, but mark yourself and you will start to feel more empowered. If I'm going to do a speaking gig, I will sometimes try to go in advance and I'll touch the chairs, right? I'll touch the chairs in that auditorium and it helps me calm down. Like, right, I'm marking them. I'm saying, I belong here, right? I am good enough. I am worthy enough. I'm accepted. I belong here, right? So it's amazing what you can actually do with just these free, simple exercises. It can actually bring coherence to the nervous system. It can get it to stop sticking in that stress response cycle. And because what you're doing with these somatic exercises is you're sending this message to your body that I am safe and all is well.
One of the things that I teach my clients is self-care, and I would put this right under that topic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is something that, like all things, when we're trying to become healthier, it can really pile up, right? Like our list of things to do in the day to try to be healthy tends to get extensive. And so what I like to do is just prioritize my self-care. Which one do I think is the most important to me? And I'm telling you, hands down, if you can just start your day, even before you get out of bed, if you can just take 30 seconds to do one of these exercises, even just the awareness one and do the breathing, it can literally change the rest of your entire day because you're starting then with a calm nervous system.
So I just want to give a little food for thought on this for those Christians who have a hard time wrapping their mind around the term self-care because they feel like it's selfish. And so even in the Bible, the Lord said, guard your heart. Above all things, guard your heart, for out of it flows the wellness of life. So he has even given us permission, because when we take the time to care for ourselves well, then we are able to care for others well. And just like the theme is stress, and stress can take us out, and then we're not available to serve others in the way that we need to, and we don't have that joy, just like you had talked about. So it is so important to take care of this aspect so that we can do our job well, to do it well. And also, just kind of coming back to, the value of nutrients, because I always kind of pretend like here we have this little tank right here. And if we're filled with nutrients, then a lot of times we can handle the stress. But when the stress is coming in a load that's too much to handle, which is everything that you have been talking about, then this level comes down and it never gets up enough to be able to work. And so it all works together. It's all a piece of the puzzle that needs to be filled. So I love all of these techniques that you have taught us. And it just, like, for me, that person that can't sit down, that's me. I've invited people to come to my home as I'm serving them lunch and serving them coffee and whatever. And one of my friends finally said, "Can you just sit down?" And I'm like, how horrible. Like, this is something that I really need to be intentional about, and to be able to take that time to do those breathing techniques that you were talking about, to stop. And guys, we have got to take the time, honestly, to stop and smell the roses.
Mhm.
And then we will have a better life. And all of those things that you talked about, like going in my office and working and that filling that void. As you were talking about being bulimic or anorexic or things like that, and I'll turn that to me, which might sound silly, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's rhyme or reason, but mine is coffee. Coffee is a hug and a mug, and it's what I turn to, literally what I turn to as my de-stressor. And there's nothing wrong with a couple cups of coffee, but my gosh, don't do it all day. And then it becomes a negative. So all of these things can be a positive in small increments, but then when it's the source, it was never meant to be the source. And so light bulbs, just going on all over the place.
I love that. I love that. And I'd love to add, if I could, just quickly, I feel exactly the same way that, God didn't give us this spirit of fear, right? We're built in his image. God is not fearful, right? We are meant to experience and exude the fruits of the spirit. And you can't do that when you're in fear. And one of my favorite verses is from Proverbs. It's whatsoever a man thinks, so is he, right? That's exactly what we are talking about today, is that you are what you think, right? You are what you believe. You
Yeah,
are your thoughts. You are the words that you speak. The Bible calls us to speak life over ourselves, not to speak death. And when you have a nervous system that's stuck in fear, right? Your thinking is fear. It is fear based, and you are speaking death over the body when you are stuck in fight or flight because you are stuck in fear. And that literally commands every cell in your body to operate from a state of fear, right? So this is actually very much a biblical concept. When I mentioned earlier that when in finding my healing, I go back to my roots, right? Going back to the hunter gatherers, but it's all in the Bible,
that's right.
right? The path is really in the Bible, right? These words of wisdom that he has given to us. This one for me is the most important, that whatever a man thinks, so he is. Because when you think that, it sets the neuronal pathways, right? Whatever you think sets which nerve cells align with which. It creates those neuronal pathways. And then that regulates your nervous system. It regulates gene expression, hormone levels, and so forth. If you want to heal and you want to speak life over your body, you must change the neuronal connections, meaning you must change your thinking, right? You must switch, and instead of focusing on the negative, you must focus on the positive. And that's the entire thing we're doing here. We're trying to shift out of fear and into a space of love and gratitude, just as the
Right.
Bible asks us to do.
Yep. So the verse, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Mm.
But God has come that we might have life and have it abundantly. And so you are a testimony of this. Satan wanted to snuff it out, and God has changed it for his good and his glory. And now you get to share this story with other people to help pull them out of that horrible situation.
Yeah,
Be able to
it's
change
really,
the future.
oh, I thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, because every time that I get an opportunity to share my story to possibly help somebody else, it validates my own experience, right? It wasn't for nothing,
That's right.
right? I went through that. My family went through that so that we can help other people. And so that actually makes it all worth it. Just the thought that even if one person hearing this, a light bulb clicked
Yes.
and they get it and now they know what to do, then that's such a blessing that has returned to me and my family.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it so much. We appreciate you being willing to share your story, your experiences, and how you have overcome. And it's just exciting because we can have victory in all of this. And that's the exciting part. And just like you said, you're not in remission, you're healed. And we don't hear that a lot because, let's just be honest, the media doesn't want us to know that. It's just the way it is, but we can. we can totally be healed. Just got to take the
Absolutely.
steps and walk through it, pay attention, and make sure that we're implementing those things that make such a difference, a really big difference. Again, I want to thank you so much for taking this time with us to share all of this information. I know that you guys will find so much value in this, and I want to thank you for watching too. I appreciate every single one of you. And I also, because we have talked so much about anxiety, I have just come out with my own anxiety program. I will link that below, and it is a 5-week course that you can go through online that has a lot of information about how to change the mind. We have a mind and a brain, and they are a little different in their function. We talk about that as well. So you can see that in the description below. I will also put all of Dr. McCullough's information below, and go on there and get her books because this information is just so great, and it just helps with every aspect in health. We are mind, body, and soul, and we just have to make those connections. So you guys have a great day.